Hello and welcome to Awake Podcast. I'm Alejandra Moreno and I'm here with my friend Pedro Salim. He's an immigration, criminal, and personal injury attorney. We've been talking mostly about immigration in this series. And I wanted to ask you some questions. We live in South Florida. I know you practice all over the United States, but something that I have been seeing recently, especially down in South Florida in the Homestead area, where there is a lot of agriculture. I've been seeing a lot of employers losing their employees due to this E-Verify thing. I've been seeing people that have been living here for 30, 40 years going back to their home country just because they're scared. And I don't know enough about the details, but I wanted to ask you, what has been your experience?
So E-Verify is something that has been in the books for a while. Now it's just being enforced, right? So E-Verify, if you have a certain number of employees, I believe it's 25 employees or more, you have to make sure that you have all the documentation, that they have a work permit or a residency, that they're eligible to work legally. And there are certain reports that you have to run. And when you run the report, the system will red flag all the ones that have issues. And what we're seeing right now is because of the consequences of TPS being canceled. So TPS is temporary protective status. It was offered to Nicaraguans, Hondurans, Venezuelans for many years. And that gave them a work authorization. It gave them a driver's license. So with TPS, they were able to work legally. But now with this administration canceling TPS for all these countries, they find themselves not being able to have a legal work permit. So when these companies, these big companies, especially the agricultural companies, are running the E-Verify, they're finding that, hey, now I have 10, 15 employees that I got to fire because if not, I'm going to get fined.
Right.
And if they don't, and if they hire people without papers, they can get fined. If they keep doing it, they can even get charged criminally.
Wow.
So we've been getting a lot of companies, car wash companies, different companies that come to our office being, hey, we have 15, 20 employees that are red flagged. What can we do? So what I'm doing is I'm meeting with them on an individual basis, each of their employees, to see what we can do to legalize them or try to get them a work permit. In some cases, the companies have been paying their legal fees, which has been very nice. These are employees that the company need, right?
Of course.
That have been with them for years, that they can't live without. The company depends on their work, so they have no problem paying for their legal fees. So yeah, right now that's a huge thing. E-Verify is affecting a lot of big companies, and the Congresswoman Salazar, she's proposed a new law, which is interesting because she's Republican, right? And it goes completely against what the administration is proposing. But she did it with a Democrat from Texas, and it's called the Dignity Act. And the Dignity Act is basically saying, hey, there are people in hotels, there are people in agricultural that need a way to be able to work here legally. Our country depends on it. I mean, our president is a man of business. He has hotels all around the world. He knows firsthand the value of Hispanic and African American employees. So you go to his hotel here in Doral. I mean, they're mostly Hispanics that work there. So you lose that base. You lose those employees. What do you do?
Right?
What do you do? Who's gonna get from farm to table the food? How much are we gonna pay? Because I know you or I are not gonna want to do that work. A lot of Americans are not gonna want to do that work. These people are hardworking people that do the work at very little cost. And so the Dignity Act is basically giving them a work authorization, a legal status in the United States. It doesn't promise them residency, it doesn't promise them citizenship, but it legalizes them and it takes them away from the risk of being deported. Obviously, that goes against the mass deportation that the president's, announcing. So it'll be interesting to see what happens when that bill goes before the House and Senate to see if that's going to get passed.
I started reading through that bill, and so these people that can apply for the Dignity Act, they do have to pay a very small percentage, but they do have to pay taxes, and they can't qualify for any government assistance at all.
Correct.
So, it's kind of like a happy medium where people can go to work without being scared that they're going to, get locked up, but they can continue. And a lot of these people, for a professional that charges, hundreds of dollars per hour,
Yeah.
these people might not be charging very much, but a dollar goes very far in their country.
Absolutely.
So they're also, providing for their family abroad.
Yeah. The majority of my clients sustain their families abroad.
Yes, of course.
And I think if you ask any of my clients, yes, they want to become residents, they want to become U.S. citizens, but more than anything, they just want to live here in the United States peacefully without having to fear ICE, without having to fear that they're going to get stopped for driving without a license. If you tell them, hey, I can give you a work permit for life and you can stay here, they'll be the happiest people in the world.
I think so too.
So I think this is a great law. It focuses on the workforce, which is the foundation of our country. It'll be interesting to see if they can pass it.
And this has been very detrimental to a lot of employers who have been, having the same employees for 20, 30 years, and now they're losing a lot of their workforce. Is there any option for an employer like to sponsor somebody to get them on a track for residency?
Possibly, but they need to, in order for them to do that, the employer needs to be in a legal status and cannot have been without legal status at some point. So if the employer has somebody who's undocumented, then although the company wants to sponsor them, they can't do it because they're undocumented. They're without legal status. Yeah. Now, if the person came here legally, let's say on a tourist visa, and then transitioned to a student visa and got TPS, and all this time they've been on a legal status, then yes, now the employer can maybe do a visa where they have to, we can do an EB3 visa, we can do an H-1B visa. These are different visas for employees.
But also for the employer, if they do sponsor somebody else and that person gets into some kind of legal trouble, criminal trouble, the employer is responsible in a way, or they can be implicated in a way.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's definitely implications. There's a risk. There's a risk that you take in petitioning somebody because you ultimately you're financially responsible for them.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So there are options out there.
Yeah.
Congress, as much as we criticize them, they're trying to do something about everything we're hearing about. And, I have no problem with people coming here to work and make a living and send money back home, but they have to be able to go to work peacefully and not fear every time they get into a car, they're going to be arrested and sent back home.
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, thank you so much for that insight, Pedro. And thank you all for joining us from ASM Law Group, preserving what matters most for those who matter most.